was so happy. I was so hopeful. I thought that this was gonna be my happily ever after. I feel so different right now.
A lot has clearly changed since Jasmine and Gino's wedding. Her hopes that she and her children would live with Gino happily ever after in the States has now gone up in smoke. But the problem is, Gino doesn't seem to care. He doesn't seem to care that Jasmine will be separated from her kids for up to 2 years. And if he doesn't care about something that important, then how on earth can Jasmine remain married to him? Well, perhaps she won't.
I have failed, like in all the roles of my life.
Jasmine, wait up!
Jasmine is clearly feeling the guilt of failing her kids, both on an emotional and a physical level. But before we get into that, let's start at the beginning. So, the last we saw the pair, they were dealing with the fallout of learning that Jasmine's kids may not be able to come to the States for another 2 years. Not only did Gino mess up the paperwork, but now he's flat out refusing to hire a lawyer to do the new paperwork. He says $5,000 is too expensive. He claims he can't afford it. So when we catch up with Jasmine in this episode, she's at the post office sending her kids a care package filled to the brim with gifts.
Gino doesn't understand how much I need him. And I have never felt this lonely my whole life.
Now, Jasmine reveals that she and Gino have just ignored each other since their fight. It's crazy, like these two are still unable to communicate. But as Jasmine packs up the gifts, Michele, Dana's wife, drops in to join her. Remember, she's Jasmine's closest friend in Michigan, and she's also her shoulder to cry on. And boy does Jasmine need that right now. As she fills Michele in on what's happened, the tears begin.
Get a lawyer.
He doesn't want.
I don't care.
He said it's too expensive, like
No.
$5,000 is way too much. I've been so depressed.
Michele looks baffled by the news that Gino doesn't want to pay for a lawyer. Like, in the grand scheme of things, $5,000 to bring her family over really doesn't seem to be all that much. After all, we've been led to believe in the past that Gino is well off. And Michele is a mum herself. She can feel Jasmine's pain. In fact, all of this is upsetting her as well.
We're talking about minimum 2 to 3 Christmas, 2 to 3 birthdays without me. Like, I don't know what to do. I want to go back home.
Now, as far as we know, Michele hasn't experienced Jasmine's full force emotional theatrics. But this isn't like that. Like, yes, Jasmine is crying her eyes out, but she's keeping it quite contained. We've all seen Jasmine when she's out of control, but this seems very different. This sadness seems very real. Michele believes it, and she's immediately on board to try and help Jasmine in any way that she can.
I could have a talk with them. I'm definitely going to tell Dana and have him, like talk to Gino and like knock some sense into him.
Dana seems to hold a lot of sway, a lot of influence over Gino. He clearly has a very close relationship with Gino. Gino appears to look up to him. And when we catch up with Gino later on, he's with Dana. They've just had a speedy car ride. Michele has clearly kept her promise.
Woo! Did I get your blood pumping there, cuz?
Wow, that was fun. That's what I needed today, man. Get my mind off all the bull.
Oh, Gino, the bullshit is kind of self-inflicted, isn't it? You messed up the paperwork. You were the one that didn't want to pay for a lawyer the first time around. You're the one fighting with your wife because you don't want to pay for a lawyer the second time around. Forgive us for having no sympathy for you. But Gino is clearly too busy being annoyed at Jasmine to see how bad his actions look to everyone else.
I tried my hardest to do everything as right as possible, but I don't feel good about how ungrateful Jasmine's been acting about the whole situation.
It's a bit icky, isn't it, that Gino wants Jasmine to be grateful for what he's done for her. Like, I'm sorry to break this to you, Gino, but bringing Jasmine over to America was your choice. It was a choice, right? And it was just as much for you as it was for her. More so, in fact. Like, Gino can't keep bringing this up in fights. He can't forever hold that over Jasmine as some kind of debt that she has towards him. The truth is, right now, she really doesn't have that much to be thankful for. And thankfully, Dana seems to see that.
It's gonna take 2 years
Are you
to bring
serious?
over her kids now.
Gino, I can't go without seeing my kids for 2 years.
Dana's trying to make Gino see sense. He's trying to make it clear to him that he can't allow it to take 2 years before a mum can be reunited with her kids. At least not if he can help it. Gino really needs to do everything in his power to figure out how they can shorten that time span. If that means having to spend $5,000 on a lawyer, then so be it, says Dana. But unfortunately, Gino isn't listening. He still needs to vent first.
And I've done a lot for her. I got her to this country. It's like she totally forgot that. But on top of that, she was saying that I'm not fit to be a father.
So as Gino rambles on about Jasmine's shortcomings, Dana's face kind of says it all. He's baffled by what Gino's doing. Who cares about whether or not Jasmine's grateful? There's 2 little kids being separated from their mum. That is the priority right now. Everything else is just background noise. And if Gino as their stepfather can't see that, then maybe Jasmine's assessment of Gino not being cut out for being a dad is correct.
Don't forget, it takes 8 months anyway, even if you do it right, to get kids.
Forget about all that. What do you do now?
The attorney wants to charge me $5,000+.
I'm really struggling to understand Gino right now. I can't wrap my head around his mindset here. It takes 8 months anyway, even if you do it right, is far less than 2 years, Gino. Surely that's well worth $5,000. How can he not understand that? Like, why is Gino acting like shaving 16 months off the timeline isn't a big deal? But it's here now that Gino says something very interesting.
First of all, I don't have $5,000 to pay for a lawyer.
Wait, you don't have that money?
Yeah, I've already spent enough on the wedding itself.
So he says that he doesn't have $5,000 to spend on a lawyer, but then he changes that to say, I've spent enough on the wedding already. So which is it, Gino? Either you don't have the money, or you have it but you just don't want to spend anymore. Like, is he lying here to Dana because he doesn't want Dana to know that he's in debt? Or has he been lying because he doesn't want to spend money to bring Jasmine's kids over? Well, whatever the case, Dana can't hold back his disappointment.
You know, there's certain things that you want to spend money on in life, and I would say getting her kids over here is one of them.
Look, if Gino's not willing to spend his money on something this important, then that tells us all we need to know about where his priorities lie. Her kids, his stepkids, clearly aren't a priority. Now, the crazy thing about all of this is that up until now, Jasmine has spent his money as if it will never run out. It's never been an issue before. Whether that's hair extensions, a luxury apartment, her butt. I mean, she's spent a lot of money. But the flip side to that is that Gino knowingly saves, he budgets, he spends money in a careful way. So it just really doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up as to why he'd now choose to withhold money from her. Why is this the hill that he'd die on? Like, if he's deemed that her kids aren't an important enough issue, then that's a huge red flag. Dana tells Gino that Jasmine wants to go back to Panama, but Gino doesn't seem fazed at all.
She always says she's gonna go back to Panama, and now she's saying she's going back to Panama again.
But I think she's serious now, Gino.
Look at Gino's face. It's crazy. He really seems to think that Jasmine will just happily sit around for 2 years and play house, play happy families with him while being separated from her kids. He seems to think that Jasmine's bluffing about going back to Panama. Now, I'm by no means Jasmine's biggest fan, right? But her biggest crime here is that she's been a bit naive and stupid. She certainly, with hindsight, should have been more hands-on and more involved about the visa process. But Gino, by comparison, is being selfish, self-centered, and incredibly stubborn here. Frankly, it's impossible for me to defend him at all, and it really doesn't help when he says things like this.
To sacrifice our entire relationship after everything we've gone through.
I don't think it has got as much to do with you as it does with her missing her kids.
Gino seems to think that this is all about him. If she leaves, she's a bad person because she's sacrificing her relationship with me, he says. It's crazy that his thoughts don't seem to extend to her kids. This isn't about you and your relationship with her, Gino. It's about her being a mother. Yeah, I said it before, but I'm gonna repeat it. Maybe Jasmine really did hit the nail on the head when she said that Gino wasn't fit to be a father.
Oh my gosh, is she serious this time? Is she really thinking about going back to Panama? That would be devastating, and it would be like the end of the world for me.
And so, while the light bulb appears to have come on, this was an aha moment for Gino in that he now knows Jasmine isn't bluffing. She's serious when she says she's going to go back to Panama. I'm still not sure whether or not he understands he has to put her kids first. And when we catch up with the couple a few days later as they're going through their wedding photos, it soon becomes clear that not much has changed. Not much has been resolved between them.
I know that Dana spoke with Gino about it, but Gino hasn't said anything to me. Nothing has changed and things are very tense in our house.
Is Gino just percolating? Is he buffering? Or is he adamant that he's in the right? It's impossible to say, but they're trying to put aside their differences to go through the wedding album that their photographer has prepared for them. And reliving these memories is making Jasmine very emotional.
My hair was not as bad as it is right now. Sorry, I'm very self-conscious about my hair. Oh my gosh.
Now, keep in mind that Jasmine revealed how she suffers from alopecia, and this can be triggered by stress. That is something that she's feeling in abundance right now. If there were any lingering doubts about how much she really loves her kids because she left them in another country, then I think her prominent bald spot goes a long way to showing that this stress is real. She's not just paying lip service, she's really feeling this deeply.
Lately, I feel anxious, a lot of stress and loneliness because this situation with my children is really affecting me emotionally and now physically.
There's something different about Jasmine now. She's not the fiery, emotional mess that we've all got to know. She seems downtrodden, almost like she's given up. Like, what happened to that Jasmine that would scream her lungs out, that would stomp until she got her own way? Like, it's not that I want her back necessarily, but this new Jasmine is upsetting in her own way. It's hard to watch.
I was so happy. I was so hopeful. I thought that this was gonna be my happily ever after. I feel so different right now.
Jasmine's looking at these wedding photos and remember how excited she was for her new life to start. She had everything to look forward to. She had her man, she had her dog. She was convinced her kids would be joining her any month now. They'd be starting a new, better life. But sadly, that dream has now turned into a nightmare. She realises that Gino is failing her as a husband. She now needs to make a horrible choice. She needs to choose between her marriage or her kids. And as she excuses herself from the room and walks away, she begins to cry.
I have failed, like in all the roles of my life.
Jasmine, wait up.
Jasmine really isn't coping well, that much is obvious. She's 1 second away from packing her bags and leaving for Panama. But despite knowing this, Gino's just been ignoring her for days. This isn't Jasmine overreacting about an ex. This isn't her crying and having a hissy fit about a cheap engagement ring. This is about her kids. This is about the most important thing in her life. This is the most important battle Gino and Jasmine will ever face. If Gino really can't understand that, then he's really not fit to be a dad.